All right. Well, it's recording, and I've got people who will do the post-production on it. So if you swear, you'll be okay.
Sounds good.
So our backgrounds are okay then? Is that what's going
I
on?
love your backgrounds.
Thank you.
It's much
For
better
the
than mine.
I don't know.
Yours is professional.
Yeah, yours looks pretty hip, man.
Well, I'm at the Arts Council. I'm visiting my wife today since we have school shut down. Are you guys already shut down?
We are on our second week of spring break, and we're going Monday to teach remotely.
Okay. So
That's the
you're a week
directive.
ahead of me then. I have spring break. We closed down on Monday. Monday was our last day of face-to-face instruction. We took spring break early. Next week is spring break, and then we go live Monday after spring break.
So when you say go live, are you guys doing live classes or remote?
Remote.
Like, interesting. Where? And you're at Lion. I don't even know where Lion's at. Honestly.
Batesville, Arkansas.
Sweet.
So you probably wouldn't have a reason to know where it's at because, it's in the middle of nowhere in Arkansas.
Well, what a coincidence. We're in the middle of Northwest Ohio.
Yay.
So we only have, like 40 minutes with these Zoom things. I don't know if have they given you any directive of the technology that you're supposed to use?
They suggested Big Blue Button to be able to use that through Schoology, but I think what I'm going to do is I like the Zoom. I might use a combination of this and just recording things through Schoology. That's our online course management learning system that we have, and then you just recording some PowerPoints and putting them online.
Okay.
We don't have to do synchronous. We could choose to do synchronous or asynchronous. How about you guys?
Yeah.
So
as far as I know, asynchronous is okay with us, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I'm still going to do mine synchronous, optional attendance.
Okay.
That way I can record and then do everything I'm going to do. Obviously, this is my wheelhouse, like some of this recording and post-production stuff. Like this is, I'm loving this in all honesty.
I was really impressed with your setup. So you've been prepping for this for a while.
Dude, when they told us what was happening on Wednesday night, I wanted to come in and set up my office. I was like, no, this is, I was born for this. The world needs me. So anyway, Dustin, Bork, I went to grade school with you grade school, obviously a long time ago for some of us.
A couple years ago.
Yeah. And obviously life go our separate ways. You teach art at Lion. It's like studio art or all kinds of art.
Studio art and a little bit of art history.
Sweet. And then Michael Klink, don't mind him. He's just an adjunct.
Hey, I'm an engineer right now.
Yes.
Impressive.
He is actually, he teaches drawing, painting, sculpture in my that are classes that are part of my visual communication program. So, this whole thing that we're dealing with right now, I think the instruction when it comes to like a lecture style course or discussion style course is pretty easy to facilitate with, Zoom and other tools that are out there. But how do you teach like a studio class or a lab-based class where like it's hard if you're not there with the person? So I mean, have you gotten any guidance? Have you guys done any research to see what people are saying? I mean, where's your field at with this?
Talking to both of us, or?
Yeah. I mean, Klink. I mean, you're just an adjunct, but you count too.
Yay! So Hyperallergenic, it just came out with an article yesterday on teaching online art under COVID-19, and in there they reference a Facebook group called Online Art and Design Studio Instruction in the Age of Social Distancing. And so I'm part of that group now, and it's a lot of different teachers, like high school teachers, middle school, middle school, mostly college, talking about how they're planning on teaching online. And then from that, I found another website called artprof.org. And it's this professor from the Rhode Island School of Art and Design who is doing these online tips, like 5 ways art teachers can critique online or 5 tips for teaching art online. So I've been kind of researching that, but that was this morning is what I found.
Right.
I dived too much into it yet.
What about you, Dustin?
I've seen those as well, and I didn't see the one that was a little bit more broad, but I've already been a part of a couple of faculty forums on Facebook, and they started to respond to this. One of them is FATE, which is foundations, education. So foundational classes like drawing, 2D design, some studio classes. So they started to talk about it. Printmaking gets difficult. I imagine with
Yeah.
Michael, like sculpture and printmaking, and I have a colleague who's teaching ceramics. Like I think at that point I mean, how do you make these things interactive and hands-on and experiential? I think you almost have to get more like objective-based tests and, you know, talk about the process. And then instead of them reproducing the process, it's like talk about it from a conceptual perspective. I have people suggesting like in printmaking classes to do collage but here's my thing. It's a unique challenge because most of these students, when they graduate, they won't have access to a printmaking press or a foundry or a ceramic studio. So in a way, it kind of causes us to be a little bit creative and maybe make some of these classes a little bit more DIY. I'm kind of calling it like bathroom printmaking, like things that you can do around your house. So because we didn't have much heads up, they said Friday we'll let you know a decision if we're going to move online after spring break. So we all thought we had a week of one-on-one classes, you know, face-to-face still. But they made the decision Monday when we were in class Monday. So I had to quickly gather up supplies, went to Home Depot, got some things like builder's foam and mat boards and plexiglass to be able to say, these are some DIY printmaking things you can do at home without a press. And I think it's a chance to be creative and maybe turn a negative into a positive in a sense of like to see what you can do with limited means and limited resources.
I mean, sculpture class, could you use Legos? I mean, what are the principles you're actually trying to teach in sculpture?
Yeah, well, I mean, because I was thinking about using Legos, and we would use if I had a sculpture class, we would use cardboard.
Right.
Yeah.
That's readily available. You know, different things like that. So I don't see a problem with any of that. But my problem is I'm having to teach painting to non-art students, mostly just as an elective. So if I had people buy brushes, they're probably never going to use them ever again.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of kind of troubleshooting DIY areas for, you know, when you don't have access to studios. But I feel like it's going to be lost on them. I don't know if I'm just being cynical or negative, but if they aren't art students, then it seems like they're just going to be like whatever and then go off on it.
So do you know why your students are taking the class?
One student actually wants to be an art student. Let me back up there. So yeah, one student wants to be an art student. The rest of them, I think it's just an elective to finish up their arts and other sort of things. Somebody's going from associates. There's a program at Bluffton, associates to master's program, which is crazy to me. But yeah, so just different things like that.
And Dustin, I'm going to make the assumption most of your students are actually like in the art program for art and not taking electives.
Yeah, the majority of the students that I'm teaching this semester are art majors, and you know, maybe or they're taking it because they are studio art class that's upper level and they've been taking some art classes for a while. So it's something that they're pretty serious about. But that's not to say that they're going to be artists when they graduate. But I do have one class that's more of an art appreciation course. And so that one I'm really trying to gear it more towards, well, it's nice because we're shifting towards art history in the last section anyways. We just got the hands-on, but they were literally in the middle of their paintings. And now I'm sending them home. So I'm saying, you know, hey, just upload what you had. If you want to buy paint at home, I'm not going to expect you to. Who knows how long Michael's and Hobby Lobby will be open for, too. I imagine at some point they'll close. And so when they get back from spring break, a lot of our students come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. They might not have a lot of funds. They didn't anticipate this. A lot of times at the beginning of the semester, you can say, plan ahead. And this is just really a shock to the system. So I'm telling them if they want to buy paint and finish it, boom, extra credit. If they want to just upload it as is, if that means they were halfway through, I'll give them some benefit of the doubt and kind of grade it as is. So I think it's disappointing and it's unfortunate for a lot of them because there's just so much you think about to finish a semester. And now it's more like it's like the second part of a semester that's not. We're supposed to, our only guidance from the provost is still stick to your learning outcomes. So you're having to get really creative with now if you can't deliver those learning outcomes to try to come up with alternate assignments or ways of doing it.
Yeah. it's definitely going to be a challenge for a lot of the people who are more hands-on. I wonder if Dick Blick or any of those companies are going to hop on board with some of this freebie stuff for people. I mean, that might be worth an email, right? Like, hey, we're teaching some art classes and I've got students who need some supplies.
I know Adobe has stepped up to offer Photoshop and Illustrator and that sort of thing for students that are affected. So
Yeah.
I've seen some art organizations are saying artists that are hit by this, because you might have clients or people that are doing commissions or art sales, galleries that are closed.
Mm-hmm.
People that have been planning for their solo exhibitions for 2 years, and now they're just showing everybody like, here's a panoramic of the gallery where no one can visit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad. So I mean, a lot of people are really impacted by this, and I think it's a good idea to reach out to Dick Blick and others and see if they would help out in this time.
Hey, Mike, what are you doing for your intro to design class? Because I know that one you don't use computers, right? Well,
No, we do. So my intro to design class is the design process, which 80% of it's not even on the computer, right? And we do a lot of sketching, a lot of prototyping, rapid prototyping, before we even get on the computer. But it's also a kind of a overview course of the main Adobe products: Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, Premiere, whatever. The one thing that we didn't get to yet was Photoshop. Now, Photoshop gets included in all the other classes, even photography. So I'm not going to freak out about that because it's not actually listed as a learning objective. But with my intro class, one of the big things that I want them to understand is the entire design process and the design thinking process of how an idea moves through the stages of, from idea to sketch, getting feedback, rapid prototyping, more feedback, more testing, and then final product. I plan on taking these next 7 weeks, and the first 3 weeks of it is going to be heavily around the first part of the design process, the sketching and planning part where we won't need a computer.
Yeah.
And then the final month, worst case scenario, you have to pay for your own Adobe. It's 1 month, $20, and we'll find a way to make that work for everybody. And all of my classes, to minimize the technology barrier that we potentially have, I'm going to start with just resetting the design fundamentals of the process from the those first 2 weeks back.
Yeah.
How about in terms of interaction? Like for me, I think one of the most beneficial aspects of a studio course is critiques. Or you can facilitate those and move those online. Because I think you can give kind of like, here's how to create, go from sketch to finished product, but then evaluating what they've done and seeing what other people have done. What are you guys going to do there?
So it would depend on the size of the class. But we're teaching a screenwriting class right now where the second half of the semester is basically write act one of your screenplay. A lot of workshopping, a lot of feedback. We're going to use the breakout room feature in Zoom, because I could have a group of 50 and break them out into groups of 5, let them go for however long I want, and then call them back, right? All within this app here. And then I'm going to use the screen share and then the whiteboard feature, and then be able to annotate that. You are both familiar with that yet in this program?
No, I played
here you go.
a little bit and I figured out, I can do this.
Check this out. So can you all see this whiteboard?
Yeah.
Yeah. So near the top, wherever you have the green ID in your menu pops down, you've got a view options. You can click on annotate, and you can actually draw on this thing. All of us can draw on this thing as a virtual whiteboard.
That's cool. Okay.
So this would also, you have this annotate feature if somebody were to put their upload or you could see an image from their screen of a picture of their art that you're talking about. And then you can save this as a PNG file. So if you send out a group to workshop something, they could do PNGs of whether it's text or whatever else, or mark it up, put some text on here, hi there, fix this, blah, 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 that type of stuff. And then save this as a PNG. So if you hit save, it saves it as a PNG to your local machine. And I'm going to use this when they go out into breakup rooms. This will be like an artifact that they'll upload as part of their critiquing, working together.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
And you can do this in the breakout room as well as in a large classroom. So Clink, for you with your art classes, where you've got how many people in your class? 10?
8.
8? You
Yeah.
could probably do that as a single group. Just pull up somehow, some way, upload a picture, and it's going to be shitty quality because, that's just the nature of the beast. But maybe we take this time to teach people how to take better pictures of their art, because I know that's a huge part of the equation when people can't go to galleries anymore. How are you going to sell art if people can't see it?
I do know that a lot of my students have their paintings still in the classroom. So I have to take pictures myself.
Yeah.
I have in the past done with you a little lesson on how do you take pictures of your work if it's flat, but I haven't done that with them. I haven't done that in a couple of years because nobody really seemed to care anymore.
Yeah.
It's just sad.
So, does that help, Dustin? I think
that's awesome. I like that. That's a good idea. But for that, it would definitely have to be all at the same time. So that's assuming that everybody can be there. But I really like that idea. And I think if you're saying continue to work and these aspects aren't live, at least the critique will be live.
Well, and Zoom, if it's recorded, you could make the assignment for those people that couldn't be there. At the 5-minute mark, there's a piece here. You're going to have to write a critique, or not even that. Or here's the JPEG of the image or of the painting. You got to submit a critique one way or another. If you weren't there face to face, you're going to have to find some other way to contribute to the conversation.
Like that.
That makes sense. That's good. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. Definitely a challenge. We're actually kind of fortunate because $30 in paint and supplies, maybe you could do a painting. I don't know what that stuff costs anymore. $30 for an Adobe subscription. Okay, cool. My students can work on some stuff, but we've got all the engineers who are using CAD and welding and all these other things. How the freak are you going to do that? And we're actually fairly lucky, I think, compared to some others.
Yeah, I think at our college as well, at Lyon College, since it's liberal arts, there's a lot of students that are biology or chemistry. How do you do lab from home? How do you, as a studio artist, how do you do, studio art from home? And that's a challenge. It could be worse, that's for sure. And I'm trying to use it as a creative obstacle and a challenge and saying, stuff like this does happen from time to time. It's unheard of in higher education, but in terms of your art career, there's going to be, bumps along the way, and you're going to have to figure out how to respond and react accordingly and adapt. So.
And we are definitely in the midst of a new norm is going to be created after this. Things aren't going to go back to the way they were. There's going to be a new norm established from this. One other feature that's cool with Zoom, when you're going to talk about your critiques, there's a setting in the back end of Zoom. So if you go to zoom.us into your profile account there's a lot more deeper settings. I haven't fully tested this yet, but there is a toggle switch where you can turn on notification whether or not somebody takes focus off of Zoom. So if everybody's supposed to be paying attention here, and then they go over to Facebook, it'll actually, I don't think it tells you where they go, but it will some indicator that they're not present, which would be kind of cool.
Interesting. I thought about that too, in terms of knowing that someone actually sat there and watched. They could have it open for 50 minutes, but did they watch it and engage for 50 minutes?
It's like all the training they make us do, right?
Yeah.
And we can't expect students to behave better than we behave. That's
or even how you manage your class in general. If I'm in a lecture-based class and a student plays around with their phone, whatever, that's their choice. They have access to education. If that's how they choose to spend their time and their money, it's a waste, but so be it. Now for distraction, I'm going to say, hey, what's up? Why are you constantly on your phone? You're distracting other people. But it's kind of the same with this. I guess that's a challenge to us too, to learn how to hold their interest for 50 minutes or an hour and a half.
Clink, Clink, you got something to say, I can tell. And this is what's great about the face-to-face, because I can see Clink, he's all excited about something. What do you got, Clink?
I forgot what I was going to say.
Clink,
how do you switch from video to video?
That actually does it just by voice. It's automatically doing that.
Whoever's talking, it pops up.
Yeah. So if I look in the upper right-hand corner, there's speaker view, which does that. And then there's also gallery view, which gives you the Brady Bunch feel in the upper right corner.
Hey, that's cool. I like this one.
Sorry. This was a little bit less traumatic, especially if you have a big group of people talking, which can get crazy. But Clint, I guess, you and I, we do the podcast with one of our colleagues about movies.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna. This is a plug for that podcast because you watch Star Crash. But this reminds me of Back to School.
So one person.
This is going to be. As long as you guys are cool, we're going to share this on the internet. So this is like great knowledge. This is like.
Oh, I see. Okay.
This is. I think what schools need
It's
to
been
realize.
helpful for me, for sure.
This is what schools need to realize right now. We are now media companies. We are going to be producing media at an unprecedented rate if we're going to actually start live streaming and delivering lectures like this. Like, this is crazy right now. What's the transformation that's going to occur? I think it's a positive thing because it's forcing us to do some of the stuff we probably should have been doing anyway, but I digress. Back to School. Remember, hopefully both of you have seen that movie, Rodney Dangerfield.
Yes, long time.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So at the end, where Rodney gets in a little bit of trouble for hiring Kurt Vonnegut to write his paper about a Vonnegut novel and has to prove that he's learned something, he does that through an oral examination. I think that right now, there's a lot of teachers who are concerned about cheating with online delivery.
Definitely.
There's a lot of students who are freaking out because when you say online to them, they think island, that there's not going to be anybody to help for them. I think these face-to-face interactions and checking in with people and level setting with people culminates in, for some disciplines, instead of a test or a big, huge paper, it's going to be an oral conversation that validates the learning.
That's
And
a
I
good
don't know.
idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Like in art history, I think that would work, right? You could tell me what you know about the Renaissance,
Exactly.
and if they can't,
I
if
think
they can't make
actually
something up for 20, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I think when you actually do that too, it shows how they've personally engaged with it. And it is then much more one-on-one and interactive. I feel like for me, I wasn't trained to teach online, and I teach at Lion because it's a place where small class sizes are important. Those faculty student mentorship relationships are really important. So I think I'm better at gauging an audience when they're there and seeing how they're responding to things. And so if it's hard for them to connect and keep with this material for the next, because we already know it's for the rest of the semester. Are you all for the rest of the semester?
We're going under that assumption, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's official yet, but yeah, that's.
Yeah, they made ours official, so it's end of the semester. So now you have this thing where it's not just a finite period of time; it's the rest of the semester. And so I think to be able to check in with them, like you mentioned, I want to also have virtual office hours somehow, so that and maybe someone's more introverted, they might thrive in this environment. They might say, hey, I feel much more comfortable like sending you a couple of emails or text messages versus like actually going in person. But I still want to be accessible and available for students however they need it.
Do you want to see how I'm doing my calendar and office hours, Dustin?
Sure.
So here we go. Our school email is through Google. I don't know if you guys are as well, Gmail. But here's my school calendar. I actually have, let me go to next week, office hours. I've been doing office hours and code reviews for assignments for my online web class, because that's, again, one of the only ways I can tell if you actually know this versus copy pasted it, is to have a conversation with you. So all of their formative assessments, they actually meet with me to discuss, which could get cumbersome. But I'm dealing with small class sizes too.
Yeah.
But so for my office hours, do you use Google Calendar by any chance, or what's your school account?
Yeah, we use Google.
Okay, so I can go ahead in here, and I've created this time slot, and it gives me a calendar page, and I can add in a Zoom meeting. So let's go ahead and let's pretend on Friday I'm going to do some office hours from like 2 to 4. I can click appointment slots, and then I can set the duration of those appointment slots. So like 20 minutes, whatever. There's probably office hours, but I'm going to delete this anyway. And then make it a Zoom meeting.
Cool.
And now click on that. All the Zoom details are there. And then this appointment page, I share this link with my students, and don't mind all the other gobbledygook. That's my calendar. But if you see here, now all students have to do is click on any of those things there, and boom, it comes up with the link, all the info,
cool.
office hours, and includes
That's
their
cool.
name, who you're
Okay.
meeting with.
That's
So
perfect.
that's-
We're about to do advising appointments too, and normally those are face to face. So this is gonna be perfect for advising appointments.
Same. Yeah. Our advising center, I think, is going to use this. Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of tools available that we just have never had the time to kind of get into, but now like we're trying to save time by heading off the pass with the flood of emails that are going to come in, right? We know
Definitely.
students are going to flood us with email. They're finally checking their emails. I guess one good thing coming out of this, we sent out a technology survey, and 84% of our students are responding to emails daily. But again, that survey is kind of skewed because it was sent via email. So
True.
So I actually sent out emails to my students, and I want to say 2 or 3 of them didn't respond, but the rest did.
right.
And so I've already gotten questions about what's going on the rest of the semester, what's happening, kind of frustrations of now I have to paint at home. What do I do there? And it's the whole thing. So this is actually really good because I have a little bit more to work from.
So what I did this week, and Dustin, this may be something you do next week, is I set up live meetings like this, optional when class was going to happen anyway, to at least get some people comfortable with the technology. I don't want to have to spend, we're already losing time. I don't have to spend all next week dealing with people learning new technology. And Zoom is fairly simple, but when you put in all the cognitive load of, oh my God, kids are home. Oh my God, my parents, what are they doing? All this other stuff. The simple things become mountains. And I
Yes.
really don't want people to get lost right now, which is we're going to lose some. It's just inevitable, right? Some people are not going to come to our classes.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
Yeah.
Yep.
What else? I love this. I love helping.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
good.
it
It's very
seems like,
helpful.
I can't think of anything else. I mean, I do like the idea, Dustin, like you said, of the painting concepts instead of necessarily painting. I think maybe they'll get something out of that. Something I do, beginning of each class, I give the students, I show them 2 artists of the day, historical artists and then contemporary artists. And then from that, we're actually looking at, okay, how did they do this? Why did they do this? What do you guys think? You know, because a lot of times they think if I'm putting art on the board or if it's in a museum, it has to be good art, or they have to like it. And if they don't like it, then they don't know why they don't like it. So I think I want to continue with that at least. But I do like the painting concepts so that we can at least get them thinking about and talking about painting. And then as for critiques, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. But I do like the breakout room feature though, just because then we can all kind of have an idea of what we're looking at, and then putting up a picture of the painting at least. I think that would be good.
And Clink, with 8 people in a room, 2 people can do a critique and everybody else just sits there and watch. If you throw 3 people in a room and they have to critique, most likely 2 of the 3 have to talk, right? Because you don't let the other person talk. That might be a good one. And that whole breakout feature, you can set the number of groups, and then you can actually do it automatically or virtually or manually. So.
Okay. That's cool.
I saw that feature, and I saw how you can assign people to groups, and then how do you monitor the groups though? I mean, does it record it, or you kind of keep an eye on what happens?
I don't know. I'd have to play with that. That'll be next on my list to kind of play with. I know when you break out the groups, everybody gets individual invites to join their group. You have a dashboard that shows who has joined their group and where they're at. And then you have kind of a call back to the room button. But I don't know if you can pop. I got to make the assumption you ought to be able to pop into individual rooms. Would make sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, like for me, in all honesty, like I've been building my classes in this direction anyway. This allows me to do all of the ranting at the beginning, sending them off to working groups, whiteboard a little bit, critique a little bit. I can pop in. I'm assuming I can pop in each of those rooms, then come back when I feel like they're ready, bring everybody back, and just set the tone for what they would do in lab, which is when they would be focusing on using probably the Adobe tools. And then so if I'm going to do that, my lab session is probably going to be just an open thing like this, where people can pop in, or that office hour type thing where people can pop in with their individual questions.
I want to borrow your setup so I can teach printmaking in there, because otherwise I'm gonna be like awkwardly holding a phone up as I'm doing a demonstration.
I'm very fortunate for the discipline I teach right now. The discipline I teach is perfectly suited to deal with this. But I don't know. Now might be the time. Ask for some tools, man. Get yourself a nice $10,000 camera. But I think too, don't want to get confused. Like, I'm doing everything so it can be delivered, could be
Yeah,
produced and
yeah.
delivered through this thing. Because we have students. I don't know how rural or what your students are like. I've got students with home computers but no home internet.
Yeah,
But every
yeah.
single one of them has a smartphone. Actually,
Mhm.
all but 2 have smartphones so far that have responded to the survey. Yeah, we actually have staff who don't have internet at home. This
Yeah.
is going to get crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Spectrum's doing free internet for a little while,
yeah.
for 30 days or something like that.
Oh, the other thing that's cool about Zoom is I do have some students who have awful internet connections.
Mhm.
This does a really good job of stripping things down for people who are dealing with that. Like, I had a person who's got a 1 megabyte internet connection at home, and they were actually able to participate in this. So,
That's cool.
yeah,
That's
Wow.
good.
yeah,
Yeah, for me, I wanted to do things that were as inclusive as possible and not exclude people, because yeah, there's some people that are in rural Arkansas,
Yeah.
and some places where maybe, bandwidth is spotty or their connection is unreliable. And you hate to say like, oh, you have just this window of time to
Yeah.
access this, because they might have to be going to a library, and who knows how long the libraries will be open.
Ours are closed.
Ours are closed, yeah.
Ohio's been pretty hard hit, haven't they? I saw they closed bars and some restaurants, right? You just do drive-through.
Yeah. So I
Not
think
with the virus, I don't think, but just with the response to the virus is what they.
Oh, okay. So it's more the response than actually being.
Yeah, so-
last I heard, Monroe, Michigan, just over the border, has one, and then Lucas County, where I am right now in Toledo, has one as well, one case, and that's all last I heard so far. So it's not been too bad.
I think Ohio's up to about 60 cases, but I think what happened in Ohio is Ohio State made the decision, and everybody is the
following
next
suit.
day the governor had a meeting. So yeah, Ohio State's
It kind of
definitely
happened
led the
here,
way.
but slower. We probably have, I think, 22, 23 cases last I heard.
Mhm.
The public schools, the governor just shut down the public schools. So yesterday was the first day they didn't have classes. They have a certain amount of built-in days where they can miss instruction. They can move some things to online. So they wouldn't have to necessarily, they can do like 10 days of that, and they wouldn't have to make up.
Mhm.
But we're going to get to the point probably where they miss so much school, they're going to have to either make up or deliver online. And so after that decision, I think that really pushed our school, which was thinking about waiting until after spring break. They said, and a lot of students and parents were complaining. They said, we need to
Yeah.
move on this now.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I'm going to recommend for everybody, get out in front with your students. Like, if you plan on using this technology, just try to set up like some non-required meetings next week or whenever you have the time,
That's good,
just
yeah.
to minimize the amount of people who aren't going to, or who might have technology issues.
Yeah.
The other thing, depending on your class size, I'm going to recommend having a moderator, like somebody not in the room with you, but a student who's actually monitoring the chat and some other things that could be going on. Because you can raise your hand, you can do all kinds of things over here. You can actually add some. Okay, who thinks I'm great? Right? See the thumbs up that come up. You can do some stuff like that. But somebody that's, us as faculty, we get ranting sometimes and don't pay attention to questions that would pop up in the chat. Having somebody dedicated to that would be helpful as well. So
That's true.
yeah, just get out in front as much as you can. And on Friday, me and the instructional designer here are going to be having breakout sessions with some of our faculty. And I'm going to remove that person.
Who are
That's somebody showing up to the 3:00 meeting early because I'm using my personal room. So that's something that we're going to have to work out. People, yeah. So I'm still working out the bugs of Zoom, because the last time I used something like this for class was when we had a boat ton of snow and I didn't want people to show up.
Mhm.
Didn't want to make people come, but we tried some remote instruction, and that was a peer.in back when that was a thing. So yeah, I'm going to head off though, because I've got, one, our time's running out, but is there any last things that you guys want to, quick questions or anything?
I don't think
Thanks
so.
for putting this together. It's been really helpful for me to kind of conceptualize how to do this.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem. You guys cool with me sharing it?
Please do.
Go
Awesome.
ahead, yeah.
Awesome.
Especially with my awesome background.
Nanu,
Thanks.
nanu. Later. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.